And so if we would have just gave up and never started business again because it left a bad taste in our mouth, we would have never found this business and we would have been 3 feet away from gold. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Driven. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about persistency. And the reason why we're talking about that, because I know we've been persistently trying to reach some level of success ever since we got out of high school. So it's been over 10 years.
Yep.
And I know with that, there was times that we failed and we saw no progress, basically. Mm-hmm. And I know if we would have gave up, we probably wouldn't be where we're at. Mm-hmm. I know we're not like at the big stage or like at a big level of success, but we have some success. And I know maybe some people are going through that where they start a business, they fail, or they start a business, they see no progress. But based on our experience, I know it's just being persistent and eventually you'll reach your outcome.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you mentioned, it kind of stood out to me, which is like that, we failed and that we saw no progress. Like, we didn't see any progress like physically, materially, but I know we learned a lot from that. Mm-hmm. We learned, we learned from our mistakes. But so kind of like just going back to also the stories of like our story of like just persistency overall. Just coming out of high school, I remember I got a job, to make money. Then from that, I know we got involved in how would I say it? Insurance.
Mm-hmm. Selling insurance. And then from that, you could say, like job was a failure, in the sense of, it was just a job. I was pushing carts in the Home Depot, which a lot of people made fun of me because they were saying, you work in the Home Depot or you work outside the Home Depot? But and then like the insurance, that was failure, you could say. But in spite of these failures, it's just consistently because and it just stems from like why we were doing these things. Yep. Why, and it's just at the end of the day for my parents. And then from that, I think we got jobs, right? Yes.
Well, like I guess I got a job, but ultimately we knew that we wanted to build something for ourselves and for our family, and so, but we knew we wanted to start a business. Mm-hmm. And so from that, I think we started selling clothing online because online was something that I think was easy. And nothing's easy, but I guess the perception of it can be seen as easy. And so we started with that. We started selling like clothing. I know first we started with Goodwill, then we started with pallets, and so just we started doing that. At some point it was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And so we just consistently did that. But, ultimately, we made some wrong decisions. We lack of experience it forced us to fail in that business. So then we had to go back and get other jobs. And then from that, ultimately, we knew we wanted, continue business. And so like, in spite of all these things happening, we knew that we had to be persistent because at some point through our persistency, just continually doing, at some point it was just gonna have to hit.
Yep.
Although like you could argue that it may never hit, and that may be the case. That may be the case, but it was just that we knew that we needed to be persistent because we knew that if we stopped, it wasn't gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminds me of the story that you mentioned about the miner, like mining like stuff. And so I don't know, like it's similar to kind of like with that example. I don't know if you want to go over it.
Yeah, so with that, I think before that, I think it's just we were doing the clothing, right?
Yeah.
And then I know we failed. We got jobs again.
Yes.
And then from that, that's where we started our current business.
Yes.
And then that's kind of the story about mining. When this miner, he bought a piece of land looking for gold. And so he was mining. And it took him days, took him months, and still no gold. And eventually, he gave up. So he sold the land. Another miner started digging in the same hole that the miner was digging from. It only took him 3 feet to find gold. And it goes back to the metaphor or the story of you're 3 feet away from gold. So if we would have gave up on the clothing, because I know that took a big hit for us.
Yep.
We were in debt. So that business made us go into debt.
Yep.
And so if we would have just gave up and never started business again because it left a bad taste in our mouth, we would have never found this business and we would have been 3 feet away from gold.
Yep.
And so I think that's why for a lot of people, even for us, doesn't mean that the success we have right now is always going to stay. I mean, for whatever reason, something could happen that, you know, we have to go back, we have to start over, but it's just being persistent. And same thing with a lot of people. If you're starting a business, it's good, but then it fails, just be persistent. If business is something really you want to do, have that persistency to continue. If it's not the first business, it's the next business. If it's not that business, the next and the next and the next. And yeah, just I think more than anything, it's just having that mental persistence and, you know, that will to continue.
No, yeah, and like just that pretty much just sums it up. Like the that example is a great one because like we never know how far we are from success. Like we don't know.
Yep.
Kind of like in a sense that you could say we were lucky to find the business model that we're at or we're doing right now. And so like you never know. Like if you stop, you know for sure that you failed. But if you don't stop, then, you know, there's always that, you know, good possibility that, you know, you'll make it to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's pretty much on my end. I don't know if you have anything on your end.
No, it's the same thing. It's just be persistent because you never know how far you are from success.
And so with that, if you have any questions or any comments or any input that you want to give, please feel free to put it in the comments down below. And so with that, that was another episode of Driven. My name is Juan.
My name is Alexis.
And we'll see you on the next one.